Imhotep, the genius who became a god, a deep dive into the life, contributions, and legacy of one of the greatest minds in history. Long before Greece had its philosophers, before Rome built its empire, before the Renaissance, there was a man in Africa whose genius shaped the world. He wasn't a king, a conqueror, or a warlord. He was something far more powerful, a builder, a healer, a philosopher, a man whose knowledge was so vast that he was worshipped as a god for over 2,000 years. His name, Imhotep. But why is his name barely known today? Why is he not listed among the greatest minds of history alongside Socrates, Da Vinci, and Galileo? Today, we reclaim the story of Imhotep, the first recorded multi-genius, the architect of the first pyramid, and the true father of medicine. Who was Imhotep? To understand Imhotep, we have to go back over 4,600 years to the land of Kemet, what we now call ancient Egypt. This was a time when pharaohs ruled with absolute power, but one man, a commoner by birth, would rise above them all, not with the sword, but with knowledge. Imhotep served under Pharaoh Djoser during the Third Dynasty, around 2600 BCE. He held many titles: vizier, high priest of Ptah, chief architect, scribe, and physician. But he wasn't just a government official, he was the mind behind Egypt's most groundbreaking innovations. Imagine a man who could design monuments that would outlast empires, a man who could heal the sick with treatments that predate modern medicine, a man whose wisdom was sought after by kings and later deified as a god. That was Imhotep. Historical reference: Imhotep's name appears on a statue of Pharaoh Djoser, confirming his status as a revered figure of his time. Romer, A History of Ancient Egypt. His cult following persisted into the Ptolemaic period, where the Greeks later equated him with Asclepius, their god of medicine. Wild Dung, Egyptian saints, deification in pharaonic Egypt. 3. Imhotep's contributions to architecture. Let's talk about what made Imhotep a legend. The step pyramid of Djoser. Before him, Egyptian tombs were simple rectangular structures called mastabas. But Imhotep had a vision. What if a pharaoh's tomb wasn't just a grave, but a stairway to the heavens? Using innovative stone masonry, he stacked 6 mastabas on top of each other, creating the world's first pyramid, a monument of limestone that stood 200 feet high. This was a revolution in architecture, a blueprint that led to the Great Pyramids of Giza centuries later. Think about it, this man built the first monumental stone structure in history. Every skyscraper, every modern city traces its engineering back to minds like Imhotep's. Historical reference: the step pyramid at Saqqara, designed under Imhotep's guidance, is the first large-scale cut stone construction in human history. Arnold, building in Egypt. Pharaonic stone masonry. Though pharaonic records do not explicitly state Imhotep's role, later Egyptian inscriptions and Greek historians, including Manetho, credited him with the invention of stone architecture. Romer, A History of Ancient Egypt. 4. Imhotep, the true father of medicine. But Imhotep wasn't just an architect. He was also the world's first recorded physician. He studied human anatomy, diagnosed diseases, and wrote medical texts that predated the works of Hippocrates, the so-called father of medicine, by over 2,000 years. Imhotep's medical knowledge included setting broken bones, treating wounds, and using herbal medicine. He believed that the body had its own ability to heal, and he documented more than 200 medical conditions long before Western medicine existed. Yet today, history books credit Hippocrates as the father of medicine, ignoring the fact that Egyptian doctors following Imhotep's teachings were practicing medicine long before Greece even had a medical school. Historical reference: the Edwin Smith Papyrus, circa 1600 BCE, is believed to have originated from Imhotep's teachings, containing detailed surgical procedures and trauma case studies. Rested D. Edwin Smith, Surgical Papyrus. Greek scholars later adopted many of his medical concepts, incorporating them into their own traditions. Nun, Ancient Egyptian Medicine. 5. Imhotep's influence on science and philosophy. Imhotep wasn't just a doctor and architect, he was a scholar. As the high priest of Ptah, he was one of the greatest knowledge keepers of his time. He helped refine the Egyptian calendar, which later influenced the calendars we use today. He studied astronomy, engineering, and sacred geometry. Some even believe his teachings laid the foundation for alchemy and later Greek philosophy. Historical reference. Imhotep's role as a high priest connected him to the temples where scientific knowledge was preserved and transmitted across generations. Hornung, Conceptions of God in Ancient Egypt. Um, I think 6. Imhotep's legacy today. Here's the truth: Imhotep's influence is still alive today. Every hospital that practices medicine, every building designed with mathematics, every scientific breakthrough, all of them stand on the shoulders of ancient African knowledge. But history is rewritten by those in power. The contributions of Black civilizations have been minimized, their names erased. That's why we're here, to reclaim that knowledge and restore the truth. Imhotep wasn't just an African genius. He was one of the greatest minds in human history. 7. Why Imhotep still matters. Imhotep's story isn't just about history, it's about the future. When we know where we come from, we see where we can go. If one man, thousands of years ago, could build pyramids, heal the sick, and shape science itself, then what's stopping us today? If history was told correctly, Imhotep would be as famous as Aristotle, Da Vinci, and Newton. But it's up to us to make sure his name is remembered. So here's my challenge to you. Spread this knowledge, share this story, dive deeper into African history and the contributions of Black minds to civilization. Because if we don't tell our own stories, who will? Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep the legacy of Black excellence alive. Until next time, stay legendary, stay blessed.